Hello everyone, this is my Midpoint Conversation for the SDC project. My group worked on the Adidas website, and my specific microservice was the photo gallery, and I worked on the back end of this component. So prior to starting the project, uh, the main thing I wanted to sort of brush up on and get a solid understanding of was the difference between these NoSQL and SQL databases. Because when querying these databases, the tables can look very similar, and so understanding under the hood what causes the difference between these databases can really play a strong factor in determining which one is more efficient. So for these notes, what I realized the main points of contingency between the way these databases function is the way that a user interacts with data, the way that data interacts with data, and the way that the system stores this data. So for the NoSQL the SQL database, when I was working with Postgres, I had originally for my component created a table that would sort of help me to describe all of the many-to-many relationships that existed in my table. And I realized this didn't really add any it didn't really add any organization, because there would still be large like 150 maximum 150 million entries in a single table, and it didn't really add anything to the query speed, because now I would have to search an extra table which would have around 20 to 30 million rows, and this would just increase my query speeds. So there's really no, it really showed me to be more conservative with what tables I'm creating, and sort of developing a schema that either allows my data to be more organized or allows me to query for this data faster. I also realized there's not always a need for grouping similar data in the SQL databases. In the early stages of my schema development, I had been grouping the data entry points based on the color variant, and so I was thinking of doing different tables based on what variant that shoe, what variant it was for that current shoe or listing, and this doesn't always necessarily lead to improvement in how the database functions, especially with tools like indexing. There's not always a need to continuously shorten these databases. So yeah. Also, one other really strong improvement I feel like I gained from this SDC project was really focusing on memory allotment, because I feel like the JavaScript language is one that really tends to have developers ignore the way that a memory allotment works, and I feel like handling this large amounts of data kind of really lets you see how, or forces you to take a good look at how the memory is being used with your functions. And particularly for writing these large CSV files, I really needed to focus on, like, hey, what's the most efficient way so that I'm not wasting my memory storage, and I can actually write these millions and millions of rows into a single CSV file within a single function call. And I started thinking about, okay, within this single function, I'm going to have to be storing all the variables at one single time. So how am I going to handle these large numbers of data entries? And I sort of got past that by using this drain method, where even within a single function, I could decrease I could sort of free up some memory for the system to use. In terms of the future of this project from midpoint to final, I think I really want to talk about this decision of choosing Cassandra over MySQL. When I initially started using Cassandra, I had thought I had looked in a lot into this sort of outer level of complexity that existed within Cassandra that was for this node and cluster idea, and it really seemed like Cassandra was built to be, scaled amongst different devices. And I really want to make use of that feature, which is the primary reason why I'm going to be using it for my deployment of my component. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to talk about. So yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in the final conversation.